Hello everybody, this is Domenic from SA Capital, and today I'm going to be breaking down the Bitcoin USDT chart. The last 2 weeks have been a pretty slow time. Ever since Bitcoin fell roughly 55% from its all-time high, the last 2 weeks we have been consolidating between a $10,000 range, currently stuck under the 200-day moving average. We need to see a break above that for things to look clear, but basically what I'm going to do today is I'm going to look over some simple technical analysis on what we can expect over the next week or two on the Bitcoin price. So I've already started drawing some of my support and resistance zones. These are the major ones right here. Missing one right here. There's a decent sized one right here at about 39.4, and this one, the 41.51, could be moved down just a tad right there. And then I'm also missing one at about 42,500, and that's all we're going to draw for today because Bitcoin isn't going to make a big move during this video, and this is kind of the main areas that we need to keep our eyes on. So I'm going to break it down to a smaller time frame, and we could see that there is an evident bearish pennant that has formed over the last 2 weeks. This is something to keep all of our eyes on, as a break of either side will likely trigger a massive move. And this right here is considered a bearish pennant because the price dropped and then it created the pennant. If the price rose and then it created the pennant, that'd be called a bullish pennant. But in this case, it is a bearish pennant. But once we have these lines drawn right here, we could see that Bitcoin has had multiple rejections at both trend lines. We've been rejected here multiple times, but we've also held support on our bottom trend line multiple times. So we could see that this means that Bitcoin is going to be making a very large move very soon. After 2 weeks of consolidation, people are getting faked out. The narratives are telling us it's bearish, the narratives are telling us it's bullish, and everyone's kind of wondering what's next for Bitcoin. We hear people saying that we're in a bear market. We hear people say that we're going to 100K this year. So right now, it's hard to say that, but what we're first looking for is a break of these two moving averages. This is the 50 moving average, and this is the 100 moving average on the 4-hour chart. As we can see, these lines right here are very close to our top trend line of our bearish pennant. And just because it's a bearish pennant does not necessarily mean it always drops. Multiple times these do break upwards, and I'd give it about an 80% rate, about 75% rate that they drop downwards, and there's always that 25% that they drop or they rise upwards out of the pennant. So what we're looking for on the bullish standpoint is we're looking for a break of this 37.8 resistance, and for us to hold this and to form some candles, and by that time this moving average will probably be a little bit lower and this moving average will be here. And at that point, if we're above both of these and Bitcoin's trading above here for a few hours, preferably closes a candle above here, not just a wick, then we should expect a rise to a minimum 40,000. And once 40,000 can get broken out, our next target would be about 42.3. So that's what we're looking for in the short term on Bitcoin. If Bitcoin decides to break lower out of this pennant and it cannot hold this 35,800 support, if we get a break under here and Bitcoin's trading under here, this is a time to be a bit scared and for us to potentially see a sweep of 30,000, but more likely we'd probably see a sweep of 28,000, potentially even lower. So when that time comes, we will reevaluate. But right now, these are the two lines we need to have drawn. This is a very important pattern, and essentially we have roughly 3 more days before we see this major move. Now let's take a look at the indicators right here. I'm going to put on a little bit of a larger time frame. As we can see here, this is the relative strength index. This is also forming a pennant. We could draw a top trend line right here, and we could also draw a small bottom trend line right here. As we can see, we're really at the apex of the triangle, and we are anticipating a break above this line, something along the lines of this. And then if we could hold and trade here for a bit, then we're going to see a pump upwards, which will revive the price after such a large 55% fall. Bitcoin was in its worst month in history. May of 2021 was the worst month in history, and many people are anticipating that June could be a very good bounce back month for that, and we could potentially see the $50,000 range again. But taking a look at the MACD, this right here shows that we have a trend that has been creating lower highs for roughly almost 4 months now. Since February, we kind of hit our high on the MACD, and it's just been downtrending since then. And we are very close to potentially having a break above this, and that would also confirm the bullish standpoint that we would see a push to roughly 40,000 guaranteed if we break over, and then we're anticipating more of a 42,000 to 45,000, and then at that point we got to reevaluate and see how things are. But the MACD, it's good to see the revival. As we can see, this was one of the lowest MACD we have ever had, I believe, in history. This was the lowest that it ever had, and we are now bouncing back from that, and the RSI is at the apex of the triangle. So those are two indicators to keep an eye on, but more importantly, we just need to see this break above the top trend line of our bearish pennant, which that puts us at about 38,000. If we can see Bitcoin above 38,000 and we can see it uptrend, it's going to be a good place, and we're going to see at least a 15 to 20% revival up here. But on the bearish side, a break under this mark right here will likely sweep us to lows, potentially reach new lows, and that will not be good for Bitcoin, but it will be well needed. But in my opinion, I'm leaning more towards the bullish standpoint, as such a large drop usually is going to be filled up just a tad, maybe more, maybe higher. But for Bitcoin, after all the hype that was going on up here, for it just to keep dropping and dropping and dropping 70% in 2 months, I find it very unlikely. But it is very possible for that to happen. But in my opinion, in my experience, I believe we're at least going to see a push to mid-40s before we see a lower leg. One last thing to confirm a potential bottom is that this right here, we call an ABC pattern, and we have completed that ABC pattern after such a large bullish move. We have an ABC pattern, which is a psychological wave that usually resets the price, and as we can see, we're coiling now for a potential rise back to the mid-40s, potentially even 50K. So that's kind of what we're seeing on the Bitcoin chart. Just keep an eye over the next few days, and once we set a direction, we're likely going to go in there for at least a week or two, and at that point, we'll reevaluate and see what's next. So I hope all you guys enjoyed that video. We'll be back at it again next week with another Bitcoin analysis, and I hope all of you guys have a great night. Thank you.